Hello, cats and kitties. It's your friendly neighborhood headbanger Terry here. And we're doing something a little different today. We're recording in black and white because I thought that might be a really cool way to film for a true crime story. Yes. Today, well, this evening, since it's almost 7, we are going to have a true crime story, and it's going to be for people who know me on Facebook and know where I live. It's going to be a fairly local story. But first, I want to say to my friends that live in Illinois, West Tennessee, Virginia, Texas, that I hope that you are warm and safe. And I know you guys are probably freaking out right now. Some of you guys are not used to this kind of weather at all, especially my friends in Texas and West Tennessee. So I hope that you guys are doing well. I hope you still have power. So, anyway, best wishes to you guys. Okay, moving on. Our true crime story tonight takes place in the very small town of Bluff City, Tennessee. Bluff City is, let's see, I think the estimated population for the 2020 census is about 1,700. Now, to put that into scale for you, the main high school in my hometown averages between 1,800 and 2,000 students each year. So, yeah, it's a small town, but it's also a very pretty town. It is bordered by a lake, and there's boating and there's fishing and there's a little boardwalk that you can walk along and you can feed the ducks. There's a ball field, to play. I don't know if it's Optimus or Little League or what, but you can play there. There's also a diner, Bluff City Diner. Great food, really good food. Everything's homemade. Sometimes the mayor stops by and she will hang out with people and say hello to them. So it's a neat place. Lots of families. People, some people live there for generations. Just a really nice place. And for about 20 years, my husband and I lived there. It's a low crime place. If there's very little stranger on stranger crime. If there's crime, it's like domestic disputes, or somebody cheated at cards, or somebody slept with somebody's wife or girlfriend, or you just did not hear about a lot of crime happening in Bluff City. There weren't sirens going on all the time. And my husband and I lived there for almost 20 years. Actually, I think it was very nearly 20 years. We moved a few months before we would have been there for 20 years. And our road was a road that connected to where the lake was to another road that went into a larger city that neighbored Bluff City. And it was, a fairly quiet road. You didn't hear a lot going on. If you did hear gunshots in Bluff City, it was usually because people were target shooting. My husband would target shoot, his neighbor would target shoot. It just wasn't anything you really worried about. But in June of 2014, June the 22nd or 23rd, I believe, something interesting happened on my road about 3/4 of a mile up the road from me, heading toward the lake. And we actually did not even know it happened. But later we read the news and we're like, oh my goodness, that was just right there. So let's get into our Bluff City true crime story. It starts about 3 weeks before the actual incident took place. A woman by the name of Misty Adair, who was 32, and her husband, Stephen Adair, who was 44, lived in a little town called Piney Flats, which is right next door to Bluff City. And for some reason, Stephen and Misty and their 2 children had to leave their home in Piney Flats. And I researched this and I could not find the reason that they needed to leave. I don't know if they lost their home. I don't know if it was a financial issue. I don't know if Stephen's parents needed taking care of, but they moved into Stephen's parents' house, which was in Bluff City on the road that my husband and I lived on. Now, I understand the road we lived on it was a fairly long road, like a couple of miles long, but this was about 3/4 of a mile up from our house. And they moved into the house, and then about 2 weeks later, Misty tells her husband Stephen that they should go take a walk into the woods behind his parents' house and check the trail cam. Now, for those of you who don't know what a trail cam is, it is a camera that is mounted, usually to a tree, in the woods. And its entire purpose is to take pictures of wildlife that's coming to and fro in the woods, usually deer. It's mostly used for deer, or like if there are wolves or coyote in the area and you want to see that. It can be used for security purposes, and I don't know exactly why they were using the trail cam. I don't know if it was to look for wildlife or security or whatever, but she said, let's go check the trail cam. So they did. While they were out there supposedly checking the trail cam, Misty shot Stephen in the back. I hope she had the good sense to turn the trail cam off, or they weren't anywhere near it. I have no word on that, but, here's hoping. Of course, not that it's going to matter eventually anyways, you'll see. So she shot him in the back, and then she just left him there, and she went and got the two kids, and they got in the car and drove off to a place called Pigeon Forge, which is heading toward Knoxville in Tennessee. And it is a place that is full of shops and outlet malls, and a place called Dollywood, which is a big theme park and water park that was created and named after Dolly Parton, because she is from Sevierville, which is the town that Pigeon Forge is connected to. So anyway, they get in the car and they head toward Pigeon Forge. I read at one point that they were going to Dollywood. Other things just said going to Pigeon Forge. And I even read one source that said that they went to the Knoxville Zoo. I kind of doubt that one, because they would have to have driven past Pigeon Forge to go to Knoxville and then drive back to Dollywood. And Dollywood's a full day, so I don't know that they would do both of those in one day, but what do I know? I also wouldn't shoot my husband in the back. So anyway, poor Stephen is left on the ground in the woods. He is unable to move his legs, so he is crawling like Army soldiers do when they practice crawling under barbed wire. He's doing this, dragging himself by his arms, crawling, yelling the entire time for help. Finally, Stephen's parents, who had been gone to church, get home from church, and they hear him yelling, and they finally find him, and of course call the police and the rescue squad and all that. And Stephen is able to tell the police that his wife shot him and left. Now, I had read somewhere in one of the sources that this trip to Pigeon Forge, that she left and took the I don't know if they were girls, the kids, with her, had been planned. So he apparently knew to tell them to look for her in Pigeon Forge. And so they sent a be on the lookout notice to Pigeon Forge. They also sent one to West Virginia, because apparently Misty's family part of her family lived in West Virginia. So they tried to cover all their bases. They found her car and pulled it over in Sevierville, which, as I said, is the town that's connected to Pigeon Forge. It's just right next to it. It's Dolly Parton's hometown, as a matter of fact. They found her in Sevierville, pulled her over, and it took her into custody. Had to wait, obviously, for some family to come and pick up the kids. And I can't imagine what the kids were thinking at this point. They're thinking, okay, yay, we're going to go to Dollywood. Woohoo! Okay, no, we're not. And why are they taking Mom away in that cop car? And yeah, I just can't imagine what they felt like. So anyway, they find her, they take her into custody, and they take her to jail. And they hold her for attempted first-degree murder under $25,000 bond. She somehow manages to post that bond. She would have needed $2,500 to do that. And I don't know if she used a bail bondsman or some family came forward and helped her out. I have no idea. I couldn't find that. So anyway, she's bailed out, okay? But at the end of the year, in December, they have reason to believe, and she hasn't even been to trial yet, but the prosecutor goes before the judge and says, Judge, we think we have reason to raise her bond. there's a train. Can you guys hear it? Maybe not. Okay. I heard the whistle blowing. Anywho, so the prosecutor tells the judge, there's a lot of stuff we've learned that you need to know. Okay, one of the things was that when she was bonded out, when she was, let go from jail on bond, she was told to have a no contact order with her husband. Her husband survived. He is paralyzed from the waist down. She was told you cannot contact your husband, cannot visit your husband, and an order of protection was granted to her husband from her. Well, for someone who wanted her husband dead, she sure did contact him a lot. She wound up texting him, calling him, and she visited him and left him a note. I'm unsure of whether that was in the hospital or at his parents' house. I'm not sure. Amazingly, she did some of the calling and texting while she was in a meeting with the district attorney. Okay, yeah. So that was a problem. But here was the big problem. The big problem was that prosecutors found out from the VA, the Veterans Administration. Apparently, Stephen was a veteran, and maybe he went there for medical treatment. But they found out that Misty had been trying to poison Stephen for the past 3 years. 3 years. During this time, Stephen had been sick off and on. He had been hospitalized. At one point, he had been on life support. And apparently, up until, recently, they hadn't really figured out that he was being poisoned. So I guess what Misty thought was, I just can't seem to kill him with poison, so I'm just going to use a more direct route. So that's why she shot him in the back, apparently. Now, police are quick to say that there was probably more going on than met the eye, but they were also quick to say that they had never been called to a domestic dispute at the Piney Flats house before the family moved in with Stephen's parents. So there's no record of domestic abuse, calls going on or anything like that. And I did not hear any more about domestic abuse as I was researching the case. So I don't know if that was an issue and Misty just didn't tell. I don't exactly know what was going on there. However, after the judge found out that Misty had tried to poison Stephen for 3 years and that she had been in contact with him, he upped her bail to $50,000. And she was not able to bail out of that. So she was stuck in jail. In January of, I believe, 2015 it was, she decided to not take her chances at trial because by this time she had been charged with 2 counts of first-degree attempted murder. One was obviously for the shooting Stephen in the back, but now we have an additional one because of the 3 years of trying to poison him. So she has 2 charges against her. What she did was in January of 2015, she pled guilty to one of those charges. And my guess is, although this wasn't explicitly said anywhere that I was researching, my guess is that they told her if she would plead guilty to one, then the other one would go away. I mean, they pretty much had a slam dunk on both of them. As far as proof goes, they've got the VA records, they've got Stephen's testimony, of her shooting him and what the parents found when they found him. And so I guess they just took one off the table if she would just spare everybody a trial and just, confess. So she did. She confessed to 1 count, and she was sentenced to 15 years with no possibility of probation or parole, which meant she was not going to get out early for good behavior. She was not going to get out early via a parole board. She was going to serve every day of that 15 years, which personally I thought was a pretty good deal, because if they were charged her with both and convicted her of both, she would have been looking at anywhere from 30 to 40 years. So she goes ahead, she gets this 15-year sentence, and everybody kind of thinks it's weird, but over. Not true. In January of 2020, before all the fun started with the plague, she requested from Governor Bill Lee, the governor of Tennessee, she requested clemency. She just wanted it all to go away and get out. She'd done 5 years. I guess maybe she thought that was enough, or maybe that was all she could stand. And she wanted the governor to grant her clemency and just let her go her way. And the governor, who has not made the wisest decisions in the last year or so, but this was one of them that he did make, he said no, because the prosecuting attorney in Sullivan County said, bad idea. The board at the prison said, bad idea. And he took their word for it, and she was denied. So she is still in prison even as we speak, and hopefully will stay there for her entire term, one would hope. We learned a lot of things from this true crime story. We certainly can't fault Missy for giving up. She's got persistence personified. If at first you don't succeed, try again. We tried for 3 years to poison Stephen, and then when that didn't work, she just shot him. I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. She really did try. But she failed in, a couple of different ways. The number one rule of shooting someone in order to murder them is to make sure they're actually dead. And apparently she did not follow this rule, took the kids, hopped in the car, and left. And she left a survivor, and he was able to just tell everything. So, yeah. The second thing we've learned is that Misty does not know how much poison it takes to kill somebody. Because it shouldn't take 3 years to poison someone. I told you I have a dark sense of humor about this, and I did. And I have friends that are from Bluff City, and if you know these guys, please know that I don't mean any disrespect. It was a serious crime, and I don't know if Misty was a victim of abuse. I don't know exactly all the details. I really tried to find out what her motive would be, and it just was... I couldn't find it anywhere. I also could not find out what kind of poison was used. Apparently, the Inspector General for the VA knew what it was, and there was an investigation, but it wasn't being released what it was. So, it could have been anything from antifreeze to something you would actually get from a pharmacist. I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. But I can tell you that as far as I know, Stephen is still alive. I do not know where the children went, but I would assume they went back to Stephen and his parents. That would be my guess, since it is generally the goal of family court to keep kids with their closest relative, if at all possible. So, that is the local true crime story. You just don't think things are going to happen that close to you. And honestly, like I said, we would hear gunshots from time to time on our road. Never thought anything about it because, people target shoot all the time. I don't know that, depending on what, I can't remember what she used. I think she used a 9mm pistol, actually. Yes, I do remember reading that. I don't know that we would have heard that at close range. But yeah, there you have it. You never know what's going on down the road, do you? But yeah, Misty is in prison. Stephen is alive, and wow. I think Misty should probably be glad that she wasn't successful, because had she killed him, the parents were still eventually going to find his body, and they were still going to pull her over in Sevierville, and then she would have had a first-degree murder charge going on, and that would have been significantly more time. Really, honestly, she should just be glad that she just kind of sucks at killing people, because she would have been serving a lot more time. Let's see, she turned 33, I believe, before she actually had to, before she confessed and was sentenced. So that would mean she'd be 48 when she's out. And, 48 is still that's still a lot of life to live, and hopefully she will have gained some perspective and, maybe be a different person when she comes out. I don't know. We can hope so. Hoping she doesn't have any contact with Stephen, and whatever's going on with Stephen, I hope he can put his life back together, and I hope the kids can put their lives back together, because wow, that's a lot going on for kids. I don't know how old the kids were, but Misty was only 32, so they couldn't have been that old. I mean, they probably weren't more than 10 or 12 anyway. So, anyway, that's the story of Misty and Stephen Adair up the road from me, a little piece. And if you guys would like to hear some more true crime, I would be happy to research a case. I don't really know of any more that are that close to home, so to speak, but I would be happy to do one if you guys are interested in that, in this noir, thing I've got going on here in black and white. Hope you guys are doing well. I figured I would probably take about 55 more drinks of the Diet Pepsi I have here during this story than I did. I'm trying to drink as many sodas as possible. Soda's what I'm giving up for Lent. So it's like between now and midnight, I have to drink like all the soda. So there you go. All right, guys, take care. Stay warm. If you're in one of those iced over, snowmageddon places, please take care of yourself. I'll see you guys for the next video. Bye-bye.